See. Good evening, everyone. Time is 7:04 p.m. and announce that a quorum is present and call this our regular city council meeting to order. Everyone, please stand for invocation and pledge of allegiance. Please bow your head. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for bringing us together for this business meeting. Thank you for our residents, our community, our first responders, our police department, our city staff, all that continue to do what they do for the city of Maynard so that we're thriving and moving forward. Thank you for the communication from the residents on the last bond election and the direction we should go with the resources. Thank you for the council members that continue to give the time away from families and job to be here to guide the city manager. Thank you for all you're going to do tonight. Watch over and keep us up there. Just in pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, you may have a seat. All right, proclamation declaring November 9th, 2023 as Senior Access 30th Anniversary Day. Let's jump right on in. Proclamation in recognition of Senior Access 30 years of outstanding service, whereas Senior Access, a steadfast nonprofit, has faithfully served the community around Rock Huddle, Pflugerville, Maynard, and East Austin for 3 decades, and whereas Senior Access has been a beacon of hope, providing free transportation and essential services to our beloved seniors, enhancing the independence, quality of life, and well-being. And whereas on November 9th, 2023, Senior Access marked the significant milestone of 30 years of compassionate service, touching the lives of countless seniors and their families. And whereas Senior Access's unwavering commitment to the betterment of our community exemplifies the highest standard of nonprofit and community engagement. Now, therefore, I, Dr. Christopher Harvey, Mayor of the City of Maynard, Texas, on behalf of the Maynard City Council, do hereby proclaim November 9th, 2023 as Senior Access 30th Anniversary Day in the City of Maynard and commend Senior Access for their extraordinary dedication, outstanding achievements, and positive impact they have on our community. A the witness hereof, I hereby set my hand and call the City of Maynard to be affixed this 15th day of November 2023. Dr. Christopher Harvey, Mayor, City of Maynard. See, do we have anyone from Senior Access? I don't see you. Second? This one? Okay, I was going to say I didn't see her. So we will make sure we get this to her and her team. All right, events and announcements. We'll start with Mr. Woodard, Texas Arbor Day event, November 18th, 2023 at Timmerman Park. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We would like to invite everyone to Arbor Day this Saturday. It's going to be held at Timmerman Park from 9 to 10. We will have donuts and refreshments. We do have 10 tree giveaways we're going to give out. Please bring your family and friends. And we will have Allison Bilas with Texas A&M Forestry there. So we'll actually do a tree demonstration of planting a tree. So please bring your families, kids, and let them learn how to plant a tree. So welcome. Thanks.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thanks. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Any questions?
We made Tree USA, Tree
Yes, ma'am.
City USA again,
Yes.
or
we
what,
did.
the second
Second or the third time? Yes,
second or
second.
third year?
Yeah. Second. Okay. Thank you. Thank you all.
All right. Thank you all. And good work on keeping us hitting those awards and marks, staff and Parks and Trees Committee. Next, we have Holidays in the Park. Ms. Watkins.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So it's our annual Holidays in the Park. It's always going to be the first Saturday in December, which is December 2nd. It's going to be from 12 to 5. everybody come on out. We've already started advertising. We've got our signs up. We're running full page ads in the newspaper. We like to see everybody out there. This year, our vendors have grown significantly. We've got them we started a candy cane lane where you can go down and walk them. We've got carnival rides, jump houses. We have Santa and Mrs. Claus. Mrs. Claus will be reading 2 stories, and we have Cocoa with Cups. Just a good all around fun time for the day.
Do you have a time agenda for the event?
12 to 5.
No, like when those different.
Oh,
things-
so the carnivals, the vendors, all of that will be going on all day. Mrs. Claus will be reading at 2 and at 4.
Okay. That way we can make sure that gets out
Absolutely.
to the elementaries.
Yes. And Cocoa's with Cups is I believe, from 12 to 3.
Okay.
So, okay.
Any questions, council members?
Thank you for your hard work, Ms. Tracy. And the rest of the staff that participates.
All right, public comments. We do not have any public comments for this evening, so we'll move right along to reports. Mr. Miller, Tower Road Apartments presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Gregory Miller with Bickerstaff Heath, Delgado Acosta. And the following presentation is in connection, is in connection with the Tower Road affordable multifamily housing development. As you recall, we were together last time on October 2nd, where the council approved a resolution to go ahead and authorize the application for bonding authority with the Bond Review Board. And as discussed, that was subject to a lottery to determine what the timing of the bond issuance was. The lottery was held. And so tonight, David D'Amelio with Dominium is here to discuss the lottery application process and where the project falls in terms of potential funding, and also just give a general update on the development.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Mayor, Council, thanks for having us back. Just going to give a brief update, as Gregory said, on just where the project sits, some financing updates, some land development updates, and just also outline the next steps moving forward. So this is just a brief refresher on the project. This is the location. It's just north of 290. And then east of FM 973 off Tower Road. There's an industrial use to the west, some vacant undeveloped land to the east, and then there's a subdivision to the north that's separated by a couple things. The rents are shown on the screen, and then so are the income limits. So for a 4-person household, you would need to make $70,000 or less to qualify to live in the development. Another thing worth highlighting here that I think we talked about in our intro meetings is that Dominium's average length of ownership for property is 18 years. And with a property of this type, it would be more like 30. So we intend to own the property for the whole affordability period. This section is just an update on the design of the site and kind of some developments that happened there. So when we were induced for the financing resolution, originally we were proposing 288 units. That had to do because, as you can see from the aerial, there's a large pond and a stream that goes through the site that limits how much we can develop. We were able to vet this with our environmental consultant further, and they were able to determine that only the purple areas on the screen are not buildable. So we're going to submit this to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, which is the regulatory body, and then within 30 to 60 days, they'll respond to our report and either concur or deny, but it's pretty good bet that they're gonna concur. You know, so based on that, we were able to increase our unit count to 324 units. This is going to help us, you know, provide additional homes and also cost savings to the partnership, which the PFC will be involved in. And this is some more details on the site plan. So another thing we did was we had kind of like a pre-application type meeting, or just a, you know, initial meeting with planning staff on the site plan. So this is our initial site plan we've laid out. We are intending to submit our zoning application this month, and then there'll be a planning and zoning hearing next month. So this is subject to change, and we welcome y'all's feedback on all of this. It's just a preliminary plan. But the main items we discussed in this meeting were traffic concerns, utility and running the utilities to the site, and also kind of like screening and buffering from the adjacent neighborhood. So to touch on the first point, the traffic study, both of our access points right now are planned to be on Tower Road. We are running a preliminary traffic study that will present along with our zoning request on the findings for that. And basically, you know, traffic heading east, you would get on, I think it's Dubois, and then you would make a left or right to access kind of the bigger road system. And then traffic heading west, you would go, you know, either left or right to access FM 973. We, you know, it'll be seen what the traffic impacts from this are, and we'll explore potential mitigants for that along the way. And you know, there could be additional congestion and just ways to address that and get us to a satisfactory traffic report that we can present and, you know, use to move the project forward. Additionally, I think the other one that's worth highlighting is the adjacency to the neighborhood. So the closest that we come to abutting the neighborhood is on the northwest portion of the site. There's an 80-foot setback requirement there for the one building that borders it. So it's 100 feet from the property line, but it's 180 feet from the building. We'll also install a 6-foot fence and some landscaping requirements. And the other thing we discussed too, because, you know, we're going to be a long-term owner of this property, so we don't want residents to be looking into like the industrial facility basically, is we're going to try to face the units the other way inward to the site to kind of minimize some of the interference there. Otherwise, there's, you know, it's shown incorrectly on this plan, but it should be a 25-foot setback on the northern portion of the site, but there's a detention pond and then a road, and there's also a fence on the neighborhood side there. We'll also be installing our own fence on the perimeter, and then it'll be an 80-foot setback on the eastern property line. And again, there's kind of like vacant land in between the neighborhood there, but there'll also be a fence there because that's required. So, those are kind of the main planning items we've discussed thus far. So this is kind of the next step in the process. There's 2 more, I guess, city approvals we would need to move forward with our project at this point. One would be this no objection letter, which I'll get more into now after I share a financing update. And the next is the zoning request, which I'll get more into with the next steps. So as Gregory pointed out, we submitted our application to the state for our private activity bonds. We're a priority 2 application. So there's 3 priorities, and then they order you within the priority, and then you pull a number within the priority. So we come before all the priority 3 applications, but we didn't pull a good number. So we initially anticipated that we would get funded in January or sometime in the earlier part of next year. But now it's looking more like it's going to be the summer of next year and sometime in August. Once we do have the financing reservation, we do have to submit our application to TDHCA, which is the state, within 3 days. And a requirement of that is this resolution of no objection. It's also very subject to other projects dropping out, which is likely just in the economic environment right now. So it's kind of an uncertainty that we're dealing with. But our purchase agreement is good through December. And once we have this financing, we'll have 6 months to close on it. So it's going to be some time starting construction before the end of next year. So. And then this is another slide that's kind of worth, you know, highlighting for the resolution of no objection item we're discussing. So the purchase and sale agreement, we signed it on February 20th. When we signed it, we put up a sizable amount of earnest money. I think it was $200,000. And then in February, we have another $150,000 due. And then obviously it costs us to manage the development of the project on a monthly basis. So we pay for, attorneys, provide them, it's good progress. It shows that we're making progress and that we're putting our funds in the right place. So, and then this is more background on the resolution of no objection. So, a resolution of no objection is a letter from the city council that basically states they don't have an objection to the property. And in bigger cities, it's very common that it comes ahead of the zoning request. It in no way creates an obligation for any sort of action on the zoning request. But it is a requirement of our application. So if we, go to submit our application because there's a time we have to do it within, we don't have this letter, they'll just kick it back to us and they say you can't get the award, can't finance your project. So that's kind of why it's important, because it's necessary to receive an award. And then also the things I outlined on the last slide about why we want to pursue it now, which I should preface is this is just an update presentation. There's no vote being taken or anything, but it would just be at a later date. It's just because we are spending money on the project and trying to pursue it. And then also when we receive our financing, we need to be ready to have it. So it's kind of both of those reasons. And this is to outline the next steps. So we're planning on submitting our zoning application this week. I work with some people in the back there. They're very busy this week, so I'm hoping we can hit this Friday deadline. But if we submitted it this week, I think our planning and zoning hearing would be scheduled for December 13th. In the meantime, we're working on collecting community feedback on our proposal and getting just input from different groups that are active in the city or the area, our neighbors, things like that. And ideally we'll, attend the planning and zoning meeting in December, but we also want to have time to hear people out. So those are kind of the two things we're doing right now. In the meantime, to show that we're making progress on the development, we do want to pursue this no objection letter, however. And we would be seeking that sometime at the next council meeting or next couple weeks prior to the zoning request. And that would be basically it. And then we would sit around and wait to receive our financing letter. And then once we received that, we would have 6 months to put together all our financing, debt, equity, construction loan, and build the project. So
Okay,
that's it.
Council, any questions for this project on this report?
I have a question.
Hmm.
Just by looking at it, based on the entire parking area, I see some of the red zones all along the different parking spaces, but are any of these parking spaces going to be either covered or assigned?
All the parking spaces will be free. I need to brush up on the city requirements better and understand if there is covered parking, but our intent would be to meet the city requirements on it.
Okay.
But we're not charging for them. So.
Okay, so no. I wasn't asking about charging.
okay.
More of the space availability.
Got it.
Because typically the apartment complexes will be overcrowded.
Mm.
But just by the basic picture, that's what I see happening.
Got it.
And it's a common thing with some major areas where parking becomes a big issue, and everybody is just parking everywhere and anywhere.
Yeah, and we understand the concerns there. Two things I would say. One, I appreciate the feedback because it helps us think about what we need to be presenting for the zoning case. This is a common issue that comes up with a lot of different cities, and being a bigger company, we have a lot of data we can look to kind of show you here's what we think an appropriate amount of parking is basically. But then ultimately that would be up to y'all's discretion, and we look forward to showing you something that we think makes sense. We also plan to own the property long term, so we don't want headaches with stuff like that either. We're not going to sell out of it as soon as we can and make it someone else's problem. It's going to be our problem for 30 years. So, but we'll present you with some information when we come forward for the zoning request.
Thank you.
Yeah.
On the unit types and restrictions, the rent at 1512, is that for a 2-person income?
So good question. This is things that I need to be better at, because it's another side of our business. I believe it's calculated based on a 3-person income for a two-bedroom unit. So there's like a chart we can show where it says 2-bedroom is 3 people, and I think 3-bedroom is like 3.5 people is what they calculate on, and then it scales up. So I believe it's a 3-person income for that.
All right, cool. Thank you.
For the community feedback,
Mhm.
do you already have a formula that you will be using? Like what variables that you would use to determine the community where you'll be getting your feedback from?
Should I just talk generally about like our plan, kind of is what you're thinking? Okay. Our plan right now is we've made contact with the adjacent property owners to the east and the west. They're largely okay with what we're doing. They had a lot of questions. One's an industrial use, one's a homeowner who's thinking about selling already. They're trying to convince us to buy their land. We don't want to buy it, whatever. And then the people behind us, we'll have to notice them for the zoning case. So our plan of attack with that right now, and we haven't enacted it yet, but it's to send a letter ahead of the zoning notices, like a personalized letter that says, here's our contact information, here's what we're proposing. We'd like to meet with y'all on a date, like email us and tell us if you want to meet, and then arrange a meeting from there. And then we would present them with our plan and hear their concerns and see if there's the compromise we can make. And
So the purpose of the community feedback is just to get the people who are adjacent to that space to make sure that they are in agreement with having it developed there.
well, it's really just to make sure y'all feel good about what you're voting on. At the end of the day, we don't want to come in here and have a bunch of angry residents who weren't told about what we were doing and then they feel upset about it. It's
And let
really
me jump in there because I want to make sure we're on the same page.
Mhm.
Because this is going through our PLC, I think it's part of our PLC responsibility also communicate our why we have the PLC, our resolution we passed during the policy time period to support affordable housing opportunities for teachers, city staff, first responders, police officers, and those kinds of things. And so this is the product that we've been pushing to create. So it shouldn't be demanding on their own. It should be a collaboration of all of us working to make sure that a project that we've already voted to support gets through.
Mhm. Yeah, and we would notify you whenever there was any meeting, and make sure anyone who'd like to attend would be able to. And we want to be partners for y'all to work on the project together. So
I'm not sure if the mayor answered my question for my part, but I guess I just wanted to add in the variable if it could be um, of having the opportunity in the community feedback from more of the working class that we have here.
Mm.
And maybe possibly some of that working class employees in those jobs,
Mm.
just because we do want those people to be able to feel like there is a place for them here and to be able to grow here. So if it's considering the income and or maybe even the working class in some of those professions, having that in there, I know when we come back for a PFC meeting or when we have the update, that would be one of the questions I'll be asking.
Okay.
Like, what did those people say?
Of course. So the other end of our support, outreach efforts is to like engage with more broader people, not just the people behind the house or behind the site, and that's a component of it too. We own a property that's not in Manor, but it's kind of on the edge of Manor. We were there today, and we talked to a few different residents and gathered a few that we expect to hear feedback from on that front, and then we're just trying to make different inroads with different groups that support the community, whether it's nonprofit groups or businesses, and gather feedback from those folks too. So that's kind of the flip side of it, because if you have a lot of people who are upset because they own a house behind there, you want to balance it out. You want to hear a broader perspective from everyone. So we look forward to sharing that with you. Okay. Would yourself, Councilmember Hill, or anyone have suggestions on groups we should reach out to?
Would you like for me to send them by email?
What'd you say?
Would you like for me to send them by email?
That would be very welcome. That would be amazing.
I'll do that.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right, other questions, council members? All right, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, council members. Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, thank you. And the other thing I want to mention is Gregory mentioned it to me is we'll see you all on the 29th at the end of the month. So
All right. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. Consent agenda, all the items on the consent agenda consent agenda are considered to be self-explanatory by city council and will be enacted on motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless requested by the mayor or council member, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. We need to pull out number 5. Does any council member need another agenda item pulled from the consent agenda? Hearing none, consent agenda item that will be voted on is number 1, consideration, discussion, and possible action to approve city council minutes of the November 1st, 2023 city council regular meeting. Number 2, consideration, discussion, possible action on accepting the October 2023 departmental reports. Number 3, consideration, discussion, possible action on a purchase agreement with May M. Is it Verzel? For a wastewater easement with a temporary construction easement. And number 4, consideration, discussion, possible action on a supplement to the agreement for street lighting service by and between Encore Electric Delivery Company and the state of Maine for street light service within the Monarch Ranch subdivision. Do I have a motion on the floor?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion on the floor to proceed to approve the consent agenda items for clarification 1 through 4. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by, I'm sorry, that was it was first motion by Councilwoman Mesquite, second by Councilwoman Weir. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? I have 2 comments. One, do we know why what contributed to the decrease in service time or response time for ESD 12? You don't have to answer now. Just if anyone just knows that, because I saw it went down from like 12 minutes to 8 minutes from one of the reports a while back. The other question I had was I saw that there were some increases in like kind of crime from 22 to 23. Do we know if there was any? Do we know the juvenile breakdown for that?
Well, if you look, there's another Mayor, Council. Good evening.
Good evening.
If you go to page 21 of your juvenile detentions is at 0 this month, you will see that number increase. If y'all saw the news story on the 5 juveniles that broke in, that won't be reflected until next month. So, on those numbers from year to year, you're just going to have some fluctuation, and there's a lot of variables that go into the fluctuation of those numbers.
Okay. Now, I wanted to just call it out so we can talk about, at some point in time, there's going to be a safety meeting. So we can talk about those numbers and the public safety committee.
For sure.
What we think of creating the ups and downs, so we can repeat the downs.
Yeah.
In there. So,
well, as long as we're a growing community, we're going to see probably more ups than downs. Unfortunately, the more people we add to the mix, the more problems that we're going to be dealing with them. So, unfortunately.
And the hope is that if we are doing something that creates annual downs, that we support it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And enhance that. So,
yeah. Okay. Thank you.
That's it. Any other questions to the motion?
No, just a comment. There was a shooting in my neighborhood not long ago, and before I could even call 911, you guys responded very quickly. So thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. They do an excellent job. If you look at our response time is currently sitting under 2 minutes, which is exceptional. Our officers do a great job at being in the right place at the right time.
Other comments? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Move right along to consent agenda item number 5, consideration, discussion, possible action to place liens on properties that were abated for violations of Maine Area Code of Ordinance, Article 6.03, tall grass, litter, and junk on properties. Council members, there was a language change that needs to take place. That's why that item was pulled. And what do we need to say in here for that piece?
Mayor and council, on your motion, just if you're approving it with the revisions of changing City of Leander to City of Manor. That's a typo.
There's a typo that needs to be corrected. So, do we have a motion on the floor?
Mayor and Council, I'd like to make a motion that the city of acknowledges and places liens on properties that were abated for violations of Manor Code of Ordinance Article 6.03 for tall grass, litter, and junk on properties as presented, and authorize the city manager to execute the liens. What was the change? Oh, with revisions.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Emily Hill. Any questions to the motion?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
How many times were these property owners notified about the violations?
That's my question.
Evening, Mayor and Council. I could look into that. Usually, like under standard process, they get a first notice and they have 10 days to cure it, and then a second notice and another 10 days before it's referred to court. Oftentimes, our code enforcement has conversations with individuals, property owners, before they actually get notices. So, try to get voluntary compliance before it goes into the formal system. But I can look into their code enforcement history to see if they've been notified and maybe complied at one point and then got, back into the process again, and if they have multiple violations.
And could you tell me the cost of having to do all that?
Sure. So the liens, one was for 725, one was for about 1,000, a little over 1,000, one was a little over 2,000, and the higher one specifically had a lot of junk on their property that had to be hauled off. So there was a higher cost. It wasn't just mowing. There was actually debris removal that was factored into that.
So there was an infraction and the city took care of the infraction.
Yes, we contracted with Carter's Landscaping, Carter's something, and their company went and resolved the issues. I do believe at least one of those properties just will not maintain their property, and so we've already met again about maybe having a contract with a company that we can just call up to do these abatements, because this was sort of a one-time abatement that we did, but seeing how there's properties, including some of the same that are before you, that are continuing to have issues, we may just continually, maybe on a quarterly basis, abate it and unfortunately place liens on it each time if they don't want to comply.
Good question. Other questions?
Is this the current process and procedures from beginning to end, how this goes?
Mm-hmm.
That we already have in our articles, our Manor Code of Ordinance, that they violated, they've been told, they're not told, they don't comply, then they get notice, and then we handle it for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they still continuously do it again, and then the next procedure after that is for them to have a lien.
Yeah, the lien is sort of the end process. of that one instance. But yeah, if they continue to fail to maintain their property, again, it just starts over again where they get a notice, 10 days, notice, 10 days, goes to court. I think one of the properties, the property owner has been deemed indigent, so like we can't levy fines on them. And so really the only recourse is with the liens on the property.
I also saw where it said possibly establish a partnership with the property owners. Has that already been done?
No, so that's been discussed because we were trying to find a way that maybe through volunteers or organizations that would do it for free. If there was sort of organization out there, because we don't have very many properties that fall into this category. You have the 3 before you, kind of the main ones. And so if there's a volunteer organization out there that could safely enter the property, there's sort of some liability involved in that. We need to make sure there's no risks, especially if it involves debris removal. That's sort of more than just Boy Scouts mowing a lawn. So there's a little bit to it to make sure it's safe and effective. But if we could do that, then we wouldn't have a contracted service, because the contracted services they're more expensive than when you hire someone to mow your lawn at your house. It's not $50; it's like $500. So it's better for everyone if we're able to maybe partner with an organization that can do these on a quarterly or maybe even just semi-annually basis, because then the property owners aren't having $1,000, $2,000 liens placed on their properties, but they're still being abated.
I think Mayor and Council, the vision of the partnership is to see if we can, like Scott is indicating, because if Home Depot comes online, they have a program in which they have equipment that could be rented out, and not everybody has the resources to have the weed eaters and the bigger equipment, but maybe having a community partner like that to be able to come in and have volunteers. That way we know if it's 2 or 3 times a year, work with the resident, because when you start getting these type of liens on properties, that's pretty significant. And the last thing we want to do is create the city wants to do this repeatedly, but be able to find a way in which neighbors can help each other. I think we can do something before it gets too out of hand, as long as the residents are open to the community, the staff willing to create that partnership. So that's why we mentioned it. So just in case Home Depot wants to do something for the community, this might be an opportunity for us to say we have several properties, but be willing to be in a position to have a group of volunteers to do this and not go make money doing it, but do it because you have neighbors, helping neighbors.
I'd like to make mention that Carter's Landscaping is a local company. So thank you for using a local company to help out.
Other questions? Being none, we'll take a vote. All in favor? Opposed? Passes 6-1. All right. Moving right along, we're going to bring up item 9 and 10 now. Number 9, consideration, discussion, possible action on the appointment consideration, discussion, possible action on an appointment to Planning and Zoning Commission alternate 1 position expiring in January 2025. Council members, as you know, we have 2 applicants we had talked to some time ago, where those 2 applicants names that have already been submitted again for these 2 openings. And so unless a council member wants to go into an interview again, my recommendation is that we take a vote for those positions and just fill them right now so we can let them get to the evening. So we'll know where you stand by either a motion or no motion on this item. So I'll entertain motions.
Mayor Council.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mayor Council would like to make a motion that City Council appoint to the Planning and Zoning Commission alternate number 1, Gabriel Neela to position, expiring in January 2025.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Rhino. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Wallace. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? No questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Number 10, consideration, discussion, possible action on appointment to Planning and Zoning Commission alternate number 2, position expiring in January 2026. Same thing. Is there a motion?
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that the City Council appoint to the Planning and Zoning Commission alternate number 2, Gabrielle Orion, to the position of Planning and Zoning, to the position expiring in January 2026.
I have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Rhino. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Wallace. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. I see the two of y'all here. One of y'all want to say anything or? Thanks.
Congratulations.
Very excited to.
Y'all can come up to the mic.
I'm Gabrielle Orion. It's good to see y'all again. Very excited for this opportunity. I told my mom about it. She was also very excited. But just in general, I do enjoy coming to like these meetings. I feel like I learned so much more about the city that I'm now living in and I'm calling home, and just want to do what's best for Manor and all its like residents. And
Thank you. You good? All right. Well, thank you all again for serving, and look forward to seeing you all on Planning and Zoning and all the work that you're doing. Moving right along to regular agenda item number 6, consideration, discussion, and possible action on a construction contract for Cottonwood Creek West Tributary Wastewater Main Extension Project.
All right.
Hey,
Good
guys.
evening, Mayor and Council. So this project is the Cottonwood Creek West Tributary Wastewater Main Extension that's going to extend wastewater service from the KB Home Project up on the north end of FM 973 near the top of the hill, all the way down to an existing city wastewater line about 12,000 feet to the southeast. So it's a project that's been contemplated as part of the CIP projects. It's project number 35 on the CIP list. The city did elect to recommend oversizing, and so we took alternate bids and had sufficient funds to oversize to be able to provide additional capacity for development along the route of the line. So bids were publicly open and read on October 24th. We had 15 submittals, which was a good bid. A lot of known local contractors. Both of the lowest bids were low contractors, very close in price, a little bit under what the estimate was, and well under what was budgeted for the project overall. We performed the contractor qualification, reviewed their bank records, bond company information, credit reports, and their jobs. And Santa Clara Construction, the low bidder on this, is a known entity. I've known them for many years. We've done work with them before. They've done work here along 290. And so a known local entity. It's been around for a while. So we've contacted the bidder, and he's agreed to do the contract for the amount bid. And so as a result of our evaluation, we're going to recommend to the city that the contract be awarded to Santa Clara Construction, LLC, in the amount of $2,533,379 for all the base bid work, and final amounts dependent upon actual installed quantities.
Questions, council members?
Have we already, you said it was item number 35 list. So are we doing well so far on taking things off?
We're making progress. I think the last time we updated the overall list, we had 10 or 11 projects that had been, chipped off the list. I mean, some of the projects go back a ways, so it's not 35 in the last year. We keep adding to the list, and that list gets tracked over time as part of the CIP programming, because we continue to track those costs for that infrastructure as time moves on as part of the CIP project. So yeah, we're making good progress. We're going to be coming back to you in the next few months with a number of other projects that are ready to move forward for bidding and construction. So.
Questions, comments? I entertain the motion.
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve and award the construction contract for the Cottonwood Creek West Tributary Wastewater Main Extension Project to Santa Clara Construction LLC in the amount of $2,533,379 for the base bid.
A motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Messmer. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? No question? You said in the fees dealt with the development agreement and the city. What's the city's participation?
So the developer cut a check right up front for 1.5 million, and so the city's participation is the remainder of the project cost.
Okay. And which way are we funding that?
That's coming through the impact fee. So it's for basically oversizing the line to have that additional capacity, which is exactly what the fees are intended for. So, yeah.
All right, thanks, sir.
Yep.
We have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Moving right along to item number 7. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on the resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a multi-year agreement with the Texas Department of Transportation, allowing the installation and operation of automated license plate recognition cameras in Texas Department of Transportation right away. Yes,
Mayor Council, this is back in June, we entered into agreement with Flock Safety for their license plate reading cameras. In some of the places that we've determined that the camera should go, it is on the right of way of TxDOT, and therefore this agreement is needed to allow those cameras to be placed on their property.
And the annual cost is?
That was left on there from last time, so that amount has already been paid. There is no cost to agreeing to this resolution member. It is only authorizing the city manager to enter into the agreement with TxDOT for the placement of the cameras.
Okay.
Which TxDOT roads were they?
I believe it's 973 and Old Highway 20. There's not any that I can remember that are going on 290 itself. The cameras are limited to a 2-lane capacity. And so most of our heavy flow area is now 3 lanes and 4 lanes in some spots with the turning lanes. So the manufacturer, the service suggested not to place any on 290 at this time.
Okay. Other questions?
Is that beneficial to us at all in that area? It seems like it has its moments, but I don't know how. I mean, if there's accidents, red light, something. I mean, I see a lot of tractor trailers and really 18-wheelers that are doing a lot of damage, but.
Yeah, so we have determined that when a crime is committed, when we're going to look for the evidence on the information that's going to be captured on this camera, it is going to be beneficial in the spots that we have predetermined to place the cameras. So At this time, as soon as the technology expands, and they told us already that they're working on a multi-lane highway installation, we'll come back to y'all at that time when that technology is available and request the additional cameras be placed on 290. And then we will also have this resolution in place to where we won't have to come back asking for the permission to go to TxDOT. Again, we can just do it.
Other questions? Is there a motion on the floor?
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution number 2023-36, authorizing the city manager to enter into a multi-use agreement with the Texas Department of Transportation, allowing the installation and operation of automated license plate recognition cameras in Texas Department of Transportation right of way.
A motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilman Moreno. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? Definitely would like to hear how soon that's going to take, because I think 7 point for me was the 290 access. So entering and leaving, that part was important. So
Definitely. And it's on all the other points that we could get coming in and out of the city. So it's still going to be extremely beneficial to us. And I know that we have identified key areas that, in and out of Walmart, 973 near Ring. So there's some vital intersections that we're still able to capture.
good. All right. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right. See number 8. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on a resolution approving and adopting Travis County's hazard mitigation action plan. How you pronounce that?
HMAP.
HMAP. Okay.
Yeah, just HMAP.
Update. There we go. Yes, sir.
Mayor, Council, good evening. This is just simply adopting the plan. Several months ago, y'all may recall, we came to y'all for the resolution to move forward with the partnership with Travis County. We have to update this plan every 5 years. This was our 5-year update. And the final plan is done, and it's just waiting each member's adoption and approval. And then once that's done, it goes to FEMA to be filed.
Questions, comments?
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution number 2023-37, adopting the Travis County Hazard Mitigation Action Plan, HMAP update.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilman Moreno. Is there a second?
I second.
Any questions to the motion?
I have a
I'm sorry,
question.
second by Councilwoman Wallace. Any questions to the motion?
My question, Lieutenant, is
Yeah.
where is this action plan held? Like, where is it kept?
We'll be keeping a copy at the police department on file. The plan is required anytime we need to apply for FEMA grants. So like in the past winter storm, I applied for public assistance funds. If we hadn't had the HMAP in place, I wouldn't have been able to apply for those funds. So.
You said it's reviewed annually?
No, every 5 years.
Every 5 years.
Yes, sir.
It
We
can't-
were a little late on this. The county was a little late on this one. It was like actually went by almost 1 year, almost.
Let me can it be updated annually? Meaning, like, if something is missing or something transpires, can it be updated?
We can I believe there is a process to make amendments. You have to go through. We would go through Travis County Emergency Management for that. If there's anything that we feel like, hey, we would like to go for this particular action that would help us mitigate a hazard, and we didn't address it, or it isn't addressed elsewhere in the plan, then we could certainly request that change.
Okay, because I was just looking at in the resolution, it says number 3. City manifests with the mayor the responsibility, authority, and the means inform all parties of this action, assure that the hazard mitigation action plan will be released annually, and that any needed adjustments will be presented to us for consideration.
What was that? I'm sorry, I didn't catch all that last part with regards to annually.
It's like the second page under this part. Like, so there's the summary page, and then it says item 8-132 in our section. I don't know what it looks like on yours, but it's at the bottom, the number 3 on the resolution.
Yes, we would look at it. It's not going to be necessarily a full update, but we would review it annually to make sure that it's.
So what I wanted to know, like, if basically the city has the opportunity to make like something happens tomorrow, and we're like, oh, that's not in our plan, that we can come back and make the update and get that added into this.
We could add it. We could certainly add it into if something like were to come up. We wouldn't necessarily be able to get the. There's no guarantee that we'd be able to apply for, funds for whatever the incident is, but we could certainly, like, oh, well, in the future, we need to put that in there. But we're also covered, like, a lot of the issues that the more broad sweeping issues that Travis County covers that we maybe don't address in our mitigation actions. We're still covered under the Travis County portion. Okay. So, and the way that the actions are based on likelihood of what will occur. And of course, there were some cold weather ones that were added in there.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
No problem.
Other questions? Other than that, take a vote. All in favor? Opposed? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir.
City Council not convening to executive session pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 551 Texas Government Code in accordance with the authority contained in Section 551.071, Section 551.072 Texas Government Code, and Section 1.05 Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct to consult with legal counsel and deliberate the purchase of real property. City Council will now convene to open session pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 551 Texas Government Code and take action, if any, on items discussed in closed executive session. There are no items to discuss, and this meeting is adjourned at 9:01 p.m.